Episode 329 on the Church Solutions podcast. My name is Phil Thompson.
And I'm Steve Lacy.
Steve, how are you today?
We are doing wonderful.
All right.
Mike and my wife are out in another country together right now. So
Mike and your wife Mike and your wife are in a different country. Is that what you just said?
That's not what I meant to say. Mike's wife and my wife are in a different country right now. No, Mike is still working. We just saw him seconds ago. So yes.
Yeah, Mike is not
with my wife in another country, but his wife is with my wife in another country.
Well, there you go. Another country being Mexico.
Yeah, they went down to Mexico.
They go down to Rocky Point?
They went to Rocky Point. She sent me pictures of her huddled on the beach with jackets and towels laid over.
Kind of chilly, huh?
Yeah, she says it's cold.
It's going to be rough for her photo shoot, but I'm sure she can tough it out. All right. So we're a company that helps churches in ministry, primarily streaming, but other things. And today we are going to talk about streaming video. Today we're going to talk about 7 reasons, count them, 7 reasons why your church should continue streaming. And the reason I bring that up is because, it's been almost 2 years now since things started to happen.
Yeah, and we were just talking. The big weekend was March 15th for me. Yeah, March 15th, Sunday. That was That's 2 years ago.
Yeah,
a day that was a very hectic day.
It was for everybody.
Yes,
everybody that did streaming video and companies, us included. But we righted the ship, and it's changed the way we do church forever. And speaking of March 15th, we're going to have a free webinar, and the webinar is called 4 Easy Steps to Leveraging Your Live Stream for Ministry Growth. And this is free. This is March 15th. It's 12 o'clock Eastern time. It's going to be 9 o'clock in the morning Pacific time, and we invite you to come. You can sign up at webinar.streamingchurch.tv. It's going to be about a half hour long. We'll take some questions and answers. And as I've said, we've been kind of promoting this the last month or more. If you want to get an idea of what we're going to talk about, just maybe look at the last few podcasts that we've done. We've touched on some of those things that we're going to get into during the webinar, and it's free. And we encourage you to come to it. We will record it, but it's fun to do it live, and it's fun to answer some questions at the end. So make sure you mark your calendars on that.
Yeah, I just put 2 and 2 together just now. I don't know why I haven't done that. That it is the anniversary of the crazy Sunday of 2 years ago.
That's right. All right. So things are starting to change with COVID-19. The variants are starting to dissipate here in the United States. Different states are now doing away with the mask mandate stuff. And so things are changing here in the United States. There are some things happening in different countries, but we're going to talk about 7 reasons why you should keep streaming. And let's just jump into it, shall we?
We shall. So number 1, COVID-19 effects are not over.
COVID-19 effects are not over. So this has affected the way we do church. It's affected our culture. It's affected the world. And even as I just mentioned, some of these things are changing. It still has affected a lot of people. And go ahead.
Yes. I think it's transitioning from pandemic to endemic. I think COVID's going to be with us for a very long time, and it will affect some people. So. And it's really the other thing I've recognized. It's changed people's attitude. I talked about this last time about how they approach work, and I think it's changed their attitude about how they approach church too. Yeah. So it's something that people will continue to do, and they will continue to rely on for a variety of reasons. So I think they've gotten used to it. Even if I just read an article. It's probably from you that talked about. How people used to just not go when they couldn't go to church. They would just say, well, I got this going on, or I don't feel good, or whatever it may be. And they don't go. But now they've relied on streaming. So now they can go even when they don't have an opportunity to go in person. So if they've got a watch the grandkids this Sunday morning. They can still do church and watch
Yeah.
the grandkids. So
Yeah, like you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about that. Some people that are streaming, because the doors are open now and people are, more people are starting to come back and attend in person. Some people are seeing their stream numbers decline a little bit. And that's one of the reasons I wrote this article, is because, and by the way, it will be available later this week on blog.streamingchurch.tv. But one of the reasons I wrote it is because there's a tendency like, well, we're getting back to normal here, so let's not put any energy into streaming. And that's just not the best way to do it. And we'll get into it here as we continue to talk about reasons why you should keep streaming. So,
yes.
yeah. All right. So here we go. So that was the first point, was COVID-19 effects are not over. Number two, online streaming is still the best way to reach people, especially new people.
Yes. You mentioned that 75% of church visitors report checking out the church online to get a feel for the culture and experience before attending physically.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That's a high number, and that's I think I got that from Gallup, but or Barnum, might have been Barnum. But yeah, I think that's realistic. I mean, everybody I talk to,
yeah. I mean, you think about that. There's a new restaurant north of us here that people are starting to talk about, and first thing you're going to do is check out the website, see what's on their menu, see what their prices are, see what it's about. And the same goes for churches too. I mean, people are checking out churches online. So, and the best way to get a taste of what the church is like is watch either recorded or a live service.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's online with their phones and everything else. I'm sure it happens. I mean, I remember a few years ago, somebody walked into my church and they just saw the sign. They just drove by and saw the sign, and so they decided to come. And they had no idea who we were and what we were doing. And I think they were more into something more traditional. We had really contemporary guitar music, and if they would have just looked online, if they just would have gone online, it would have saved them the time and trouble. Because not every church is for everybody, and so
that's I mentioned it more than once, but I worked with a guy that said his worst experience in life was at a church once.
Yeah, that's too bad. That's sad. I wouldn't say this was a bad experience for the people. It just was not what they were expecting.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't the worst experience in his life. That sounds pretty harsh. He was very uncomfortable. He walked into a place that this is probably before the web was real prominent, but it was just not the right match for him and his I think girlfriend at the time. That was really. And he just wanted to get out.
Yeah, I remember you told me, well, you've mentioned it here before in the podcast, but a different style of music, worship, and a different thing that was, really different from what they were used to. All right. So online streaming is still the best way to reach people. And by the way, if you're thinking about trying to spend money on marketing, it really comes down to it's the most reasonable way, because when you have online streaming live as well as videos, you get more, can I say it, more bang for the buck. I mean, you've got, you're out there, people can check you out, and it's really a very reasonable place to spend your money if you want to really reach people, as well as do other things with the streaming video. So I'd throw that in there for you. Yeah. All right.
Number 3, streaming video leads to growth.
It really does. And that kind of corresponds with what we were saying earlier. Let me read my notes here. According to a recent Barna study, the coronavirus hit the USA, 8 to 13% of churches reported growing.
That was prior to the coronavirus.
Prior. Yeah. I can't read. And then 49% of the churches now, let me try to rephrase this. I can't see. That's part of my problem. Now, 49% of churches are reporting growth. That means churches now have more online attendance than they did in person, plus online, and just a few weeks ago. So building a digital strategy really is a very important way, or key, I should say, to growth. And the digital strategy is here to stay, even though you might not like it. Right?
Yeah, this is kind of an amazing stat too, that I hadn't been exposed to. So
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff going on out there. And I think if you're just, if you're not aware of these things, if you're just in your own little bubble, it's easy to say, well, we streamed for a while, it was a fad, and let's move on now, But there's really a big picture here that if you look at it and do it right, and that's part of why we're doing this webinar, March 15th, is to really help people get the most out of their streaming video. If you don't do it well, you're going to see people drop off. You're not going to see people excited about it. You're not going to connect with people. But if you do your streaming video well, and you can do it with not a huge amount of effort, you just need to pay attention to some details and put some energy into it. And when you do that, you'll see some results and you'll see growth.
I know, and there's key tenets you need to apply to the online streaming. And that's what you guys are going to go over in the four key tenets to keys to
easy steps.
4 easy steps. Yes. Tenets, steps, keys, whatever.
We struggled with that title for about 3 weeks.
Yes.
That's the best we could come up with. All right. So anyhow, streaming video really can lead to growth. And we'll talk about that on our webinar. All right. So shall we move along here?
Yes.
Here's something that I remember when we first started doing streaming video at the church I was on staff with, your church, a live church. There are really no geographical barriers when you're doing streaming video. And it was so fun to be able to see people all over the country and all over the world, for that matter, drop in and view our live stream.
Yeah, and actually become involved with the ministry, become volunteers, help host the ministry. And there was actually, we also had a church in another country or a group that kind of planted their own little offsite version of our church.
Yeah.
So
doing streaming video.
They do the services via the stream, and but the church sign up and invited everybody from their community there to come and participate in the service, and they held their service, and I think the teaching was streamed to them, and probably the worship music too. So
more than likely it was live, and we saw other places and other parts of the world. I think we had some attenders in China, I think, at one point, if I remember right. Different parts, Africa, different parts like that. So there really are no geographical barriers, and if you really wanted to get aggressive, you could actually buy some Google AdWords or things like that if you really wanted to promote your stream worldwide, globally. We talk a lot about using Google to promote what you're doing locally, and you can certainly do that. That will help reach people in your area. But you can reach people all over the world with your live streaming. We have customers that do it. Something I was going to say here, I forget what. One of the things that we also did with our live streaming was when we had another campus, again, at your church where I used to be at, we streamed to another part of town that had a facility, small facility, but a facility where, they actually had their own live music at this facility. It was part of our church, part of a live church. And, but then we went straight to the teaching after the music part. So we streamed the teaching part into this facility. So we had 2 campuses for a period of time, and they would sit there and watch the live stream. There was a campus pastor that was unique to that specific campus, and music and ushers and all that stuff. But many times a live stream would be brought in. And so there's lots of things you do with streaming video. I'm getting off track here a little bit, but it can really, there's no barriers.
It takes away the barriers of geography, that once you get rid of those, then it opens up things for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So no geographical barrier. Okay. So 7 reasons to continue your stream. COVID-19 effects are not over yet. Online streaming is the best way to reach new people. Streaming leads to growth, and there are no geographical barriers. And number 5, online streaming increases giving.
This is another stat that you had that surprised me as well.
Yeah.
So, and you mentioned that churches that offer online giving in addition to live streaming see an additional or an average annual giving growth of 32%.
Yeah. Yep.
You didn't cite the source on this one, though.
I didn't. I have to look it up again. I can't remember. I was trying to put this together. I can't remember, but I can look it up and maybe edit the article. I saw this in my own church. I saw this at Alive, when I was on staff at your church years ago. It's people are online. And so when you give them opportunities to give online, they're going to, if they like your ministry, if they're really married to your vision, to your mission, they're going to support you. And so when you give people that opportunity, and this is one of the things that, Mike and I are going to talk about during the webinar is, making these tools and features available so that you can give people the opportunity to give and to be involved.
All right. Yeah, we had, it's been many years ago, but we had a 6-figure donation that went through, and it was someone that just attended online and they gave online.
Yeah, I remember that. I was the online pastor at the time. I tried to get 10% of that, and nobody would give it to me. So I went to the church. It all went to the church. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they overwhelmed the online payment system. They had to break it into 10 payments or
10 payments. 10 payments.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. They had to do it 10 times
over a few days or something. Yes.
Yeah. It was something like that. It was pretty crazy, but yeah. So, I mean, that's an extreme example, but it does happen. It
does happen. Yeah. That church was not very forthcoming with that. I guess you knew about it, but it took me a while before I figured it out.
Yeah. I'm not sure why we didn't promote it more. I don't know, but
I think the person wanted to remain anonymous I don't know. I don't know.
That was probably
what the background was.
I don't remember either, but I mean, this is even the case. We have a mobile app, churchapplive.com, which is us, churchapplive.com, besides streaming church. And I noticed it even in my church when we got the app and started to promote our app and say, hey, you can listen to our podcast, you can give online. Our giving increased, and it was all digital. It was a digital thing, and so. I'm just saying, look, digital is the way to go here, and streaming video as well as other platforms that are digital can help your church grow financially. Yeah. It's just the way it is. So,
all right, number 6.
All right, where am I at here? Number 6. Oh yeah. So streaming. Go ahead. You can say it.
Streaming allows a continued connection, and this is kind of related to what I was talking to before, where I read a more thorough article on this, but it just it allows people to attend more often, even though they have at-home obligations and that sort of thing. So it allows them to have a continued connection when they're not able to attend in person.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we've covered this over the years many times. We've been doing a podcast for a long time here. And there's just lots of things going on in people's lives now. And that includes Sunday morning. And so there's activities for the kids, there's sports activities, there's things to do Sunday morning besides church. Now, 40 years ago, that might not have been the case, but it is now. And so the church is competing. We hate to say competing, but we are competing for people, and streaming video helps level that field.
Yeah. And plugging the webinar next week. Again, you guys are going to talk about being able to ways to create a connection with those that are attending online as well, so that not only they have the ability to connect, when they have other obligations, but they can also connect more deeply than just sitting back and watching on TV, or if you're, it allows you for them to interact as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of the problem I think people have, especially those who are seeing their streaming numbers begin to decline, is you're not creating opportunities for people to connect. And you can do that online. You can actually do that. You can create lots of avenues. And we have, in our platform alone, we have lots of features.
Right. And actually your 7th point kind of talks about the online is key to how young people interact today. So these guys already know. I just, I listened to a bunch of podcasts. I just recently listened to a podcast on a guy that developed something that is super big now, called Discord, which I'm not sure how familiar you are. You may be through
heard
Graydon,
of it.
you know about Discord.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
So it was his whole focus was just to have a convenient way to people to collaborate with their community. Started in the gaming world and for the gamers to be able to chat and talk online, but it's evolved into just any people groups being able to get together and talk with each other. So,
Yeah.
and it's really big with the youngsters.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, digital lines engage younger people more quickly. And I think that's the bottom line. You just mentioned that. And so, streaming video provides this opportunity. You can reach younger people. You can give them different ways to engage, as we just mentioned earlier, different ways to connect. And, it actually shows that your church is relevant. It's not just out there doing things like they did in 1962. It's
Right.
you're relevant. You're connecting with people, and you will connect with people. And so these are tools and opportunities that the streaming video is here to stay. So my point is, don't give up on it, even if you see your numbers dip, but put some energy into it. And if you do that, you will see some results. You'll see some fruit come out of it.
Exactly. This is good stuff.
Thank you very much. Well, it is. And we'd love to hear from you. If you're love to get your feedback on some of these points, just send us an email, support@streamingchurch.tv. And we'd love to hear from you. And, it's always good to hear from our viewers and listeners. So you can get this podcast anywhere that you subscribe to your podcast. It's the Church Solutions Podcast. And don't forget, it's brought to you today by our webinar called 4 Easy Steps to Leverage Your Live Stream for Ministry Growth Online. And that is going to be happening March 15th, as we mentioned. It's 12 noon Eastern time, 9 o'clock in the morning if you're out here on the West Coast. We're not really West Coast, but we're in Arizona. And so, come up, sign up for this thing, webinar.streamingchurch.tv. That's where you can sign up. It's free. And we'll have some questions and answers to these points that we're going to be talking about with Mike and I.
All right. Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
All right. Yeah, me too. All right. Well, thank you, Steve. And thank you for listening to the Church Solutions Podcast. Those of you who are either viewing this or listening to this podcast, we do appreciate you. And we hope that you will have a good day and a good week. Please take care of yourselves and each other. My name is Phil Thompson. We'll see you again next time on the Church Solutions Podcast.